This 2024, a total of 15 characters were released in Genshin Impact. Some are so good and unbelievably OP, while others are cute. Hi, this is Earlbedo, and I will be ranking all Genshin Impact characters released in 2024. This will be a two-part series. In this video, which is the first part, I'll rank all 6 4-star characters. Hey, I think there are only 5 4-stars in 2024. What do you mean? There are 6. I think Sage Twin is a 5-star. Wait, really? In this video, which is the first part, I'll rank all 5 4-star characters released in 2024. And in the next part, let's talk about all the 5 stars. So make sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you can be notified once part 2 is up. As usual, to be fair, we will not consider their designs and personalities when ranking, but rather the value they can add to your account and their pros and cons. Now let's get started. Our top 5 is Kachina. I think this one is pretty obvious. If we are talking about her kit alone, not speaking about artifact sets, she doesn't deal good damage. Considering the fact that she seems to be designed to be a GOTPS, especially with her passive and ascension stat. To be honest, her damage is below average, and even older release characters like Ningguang can beat her in this category. She doesn't have supportive skills either, but you may argue that she should be ranked higher since she can wear the Cinder set, which is this OP artifact from Natlan that gives the wearer energy and provides elemental damage bonus by up to 40%. But if you think about it, all Natlan characters can do this too. If she is the only one that can trigger the set, I would have ranked her higher. But what's great about using Kachina is she can constantly and effectively trigger the 4-piece effect of the Cinder set without much setup and taking too much time. Just apply your main DPS's element to the enemy, then her skill or burst, then you're good to go. Another reason why she is ranked lowest is because her element is Geo. We know Genshin Impact's combat system revolves around elemental reactions, and Geo does not react well with other elements, except maybe when destroying shields. We can see Hoyoverse try to make Geo more useful with other elements. This is especially true with Navia and Celonen, and I don't think Kachina's character and kit design is anything similar to them. But Kachina is a great substitute for characters like Celonen and Zhongli for the fact that she can wear the Cinder set alone. Her exploration is also very useful and fun, especially for early ARs. I don't hate Kachina, but I think her kit is not for everyone, especially higher ARs. Sadly, her viability as a character depends greatly on an artifact set. Next on our list is Sethos. It's making me sad that he is ranked second to the last since I really like Sethos' gameplay to the point that I built him and occasionally use him in the Spiral Abyss. But there are good reasons why he ranked 4th. Sethos, just like Kachina, seems to be created as a DPS rather than support. But unlike Kachina, Sethos deals a decent amount of damage, enough to clear the Spiral Abyss. He is also an Electro character, which means he has access to strong reactions like Quicken or Spread and Hyper Bloom. And as you know, Hyper Bloom is a very low investment reaction that returns huge damage. His team comps are very accessible too, since there are tons of support characters that you may choose from. He is also fairly easier to build than most DPSs, since his top artifact set can naturally be acquired or crafted, even for early ARs. However, although Sethos is very promising as a DPS, he has a bit of a learning curve since he has 2 different playstyles, and his energy management can be a challenge sometimes too, affecting the rotation. I will not discuss his kit in detail, but just to say he is like a mix of Tignari and Yoimiya, but harder to use, but a little more interesting. Overall, I can say that Sethos is one of the better 4-star DPSs that you can build that will not disappoint you as long as you use and build him correctly. This might surprise some of you, but our rank 3 is Ororon. I can describe Ororon as someone who could be a more reliable character than he is now if only he was a 5-star instead of a 4-star character. He can wear the Cinder set, which makes him a good support. His kit is actually interesting. He is a sub-DPS support that works well with Electro Charge. His release is very timely since this reaction was also buffed just recently. TLDR, if you trigger Electro Charge reaction, he consumes Night Soul points to deal Electro even when off-field, which means he can be a decent Electro applicator. But the damage multiplier is not that high though. Ororon is also useful especially for characters like Neuvillette, who can easily be interrupted at C0 since his burst can taunt enemies. He provides a decent amount of energy to the team too. He's also F2P friendly since you can just slap him a 5 bow and you're good to go. Also, you don't really need cons to make him work. As a Natlan character, exploration is better than most non-Natlan characters, but I prefer the other Natlan characters' skill though when outside Natlan. Sadly, his damage is not so good, so that is not his strongest suit. I think the developers took time to develop his skill, but it did not translate the best due to the fact that there are existing 4-star Electro characters that are very hard to beat. Fischl is obviously one of the strongest 4-stars who can apply Electro more consistently, provide more energy, and deal more damage by a large margin. The only advantage of Ororon is his taunt and AoE Electro damage. Kuki Shinobu is another Electro that is hard to beat since she can easily be used for Hyper Bloom teams. Ororon can technically be used for this team, but you will be losing a lot of potential, and also his burst is stationary, so once the enemy goes out of range, Hyper Bloom cannot be triggered. It's hard to compare Ororon with other 4-star Electro characters since they are one of the strongest in game. No, not you, go away! But ultimately, Ororon's ability to wear the Cinder set, taunt enemies, make Electro Charge work, and deal AoE Electro is what makes him deserving of this spot. We are on the last two 4-star characters. Who do you think will take the first spot? Is it Gaming or Chevreuse? Our rank 2 is Gaming. Just like Sethos, Gaming is one of the 4-star DPSs that is worth building since he can deal huge damage. Comparable to even 5-star characters with the correct build and team, and especially with Constellation. If you do not know yet, he has a niche gameplay, which is plunge attacks, just like Xiao. I find his gameplay even more enjoyable than Xiao's, since it's not just jump, plunge, then jump, and then plunge like Xiao. His mechanic feels more alive. Compared to plunge D-Look, you will know that Gaming niche gameplay is really plunge attacks, since it is smoother. D-Look plunge is strong, but it feels clunky and awkward sometimes, and it's obvious that it's just an option for D-Look rather than it being innate to his kit. Gaming is also self-sufficient, which means unlike Xiao who seems to always want to unalive himself, his burst and passive lets him heal himself. Aside from survivability, this is important because it means he can utilize the Marichose Hunter even without characters like Warina. As a Pyro main DPS, Gaming can trigger Vape, Burgeon, and Overload with Chevreuse is even worth the try. Of course, he is not a perfect character, especially being a 4-star in Genshin Impact. Alone, Gaming does not have Pyro infusion, so it's better to have C6 Bennett if you want to min-max him. Also, to maximize his damage, you need expensive teammates like Shanyun and Constellations too. Of course, this is not required, but you will definitely feel missed out without them. For a 4-star character, I think Gaming is well-rounded. His talents and kit mechanics translate in combat and not just in paper. Finally, our top 1 4-star release in 2024 is Chevreuse. I know some of you did not expect this. Many may think that Chevreuse is just like any other dedicated support, but no, she is more than that. I can even say that she is at par with C0 Kazuha even without Constellation. That's how good she is. She's basically Kazuha and Bennett in one, and here's why. First, and the most important part of her kit is her first passive. If and only if there are Pyro and Electro characters in the team and a character triggers an overload reaction, the Pyro and Electro resistance of enemies will be decreased by 40%. That's insane. It's like the Viridescent Vener set in a character's kit, and not a lot of characters can do this, especially with this amount. And remember, Chevreuse is only a 4-star character. Aside from the Resistance Shred, her 4th Ascension passive gives up to 40% attack based on her HP to her teammate once she uses her skill. That's crazy. And it doesn't even end there. Aside from the Resistance Shred and attack buff, she can also heal the active character in the team once she uses her skill. See, I did not lie when I say she is a mix of Kazuha and Bennett. Aside from having an extraordinary kit, she can also wear reliable support artifacts like Noblesse Oblige and the Song of Days Pass. She is also very F2P friendly since she can use the 3-star weapon Black Tassel or just Fab Lance. With her kit having Resistance Shred, attack buff, healing, and the ability to wear support artifacts, she is basically a support made in heaven that can make already strong characters even stronger. If you are not yet impressed, here is a comparison gameplay of my Arlecchino with and without Chevreuse.
Let me try my blade. What's one more?
Transfixed. Stop right there. You asked for it. Transfixed. By royal final warning.
Of course, being a 4-star while being this impressive has caveats. There are actually not a lot, but for some players, this might be a big deal. One of her cons is the restriction to use overload teams. And overload is not the strongest reaction. So basically and obviously, you will not use her for the sake of using overload as the main source of damage, like using vape. But instead, overload is just a vehicle for the pyro or electro main DPS to deal huge pyro or electro damage. But good news, her damage buff is so strong that even for 4-star characters like Yanfei, Overload team is at par with Vape, and this actually gives us flexibility to use characters like Bennett and Kazuha to other teams. Next, Overload is not advisable for small enemies. If you play Raiden Shogun with Shangling, you know this. Overload can make small enemies fly. In the Spiral Abyss, this can be annoying, so she is better used against big enemies that cannot be easily interrupted. It's also funny that a lot of people online says she is not worth it without C6, and I totally disagree. I started using her at C0, and it's definitely worth it. Unlike some dedicated supports like Faruzan or Goro, using her at C0 is enough. If you have Chevreuse and a Pyro main DPS, I 100% recommend building her. During the process of creating this video, I realized that a lot of 4-star characters have a lot of potential and can even compete with 5-star characters. I wish Hoyoverse create more characters like them. We reached the end of the video. Do you agree with my ranking? Comment your own ranking below. Again, this is Earlbedo. See you next time.